everyone, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this adorable bag. It's made out of 2 granny squares, and you can open it up and put anything you want in it and close it back up. It's perfect scrap yarn project, so if you have any yarn left over, give it a try. It's very easy to make, so let's get started. My bag measures approximately 5 inches wide and 6 inches tall. For this project, I'm using leftover yarn. I have my yellow, pink, green, and beige as the main color. You're also going to need your 5mm crochet hook. And of course, you're going to need your tapestry needle and your scissors. And optional, you can add beads at the end of your tie if you want to hold your bag together. To start, you're going to need your yellow yarn. And what we're going to do is work a magic ring. So wrap your yarn around your fingers and bring up a loop and go back and chain 1 like so. If you don't want to work a magic ring, you can do 2 chains and do 6 single crochets into your first chain. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to work 6 single crochets into our ring. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now go ahead and pull on this tail and it should tighten your ring, and we're ready to go. Okay, so for round 2, you're going to need your stitch marker. I'm using a piece of yarn, so go ahead and place it right before your first single crochet. And what we're going to do is we're going to work 2 single crochets into each stitch around. So here's my first stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and work 2 single crochets right into the same stitch. And I'm going to repeat. I'm going to do 2 single crochets into the same stitch around. So continue working, and I'll see you at the end of this round. You should have 12 single crochets. At the end of round 2, you should have 12 single crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and place my marker again. And in this round, we're going to work 1 single crochet into our first stitch and an increase into the next stitch, 2 single crochets. Here's 1 and 2. So again, 1 single crochet into 1 stitch and 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So continue working, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. You should have 18 single crochets. For round 3, what we're going to do is we're going to work 1 single crochet into our first stitch, 1 single crochet into our next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the following stitch. Again, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 2 single crochets into the following stitch. So continue working, and I'll meet you at the end of the round. You should have 24 single crochets. So once you have your 24 single crochets, go ahead, take out your yarn marker and slip stitch into your next stitch and cut your yarn. We're going to change colors, and we're done. So now we're going to be working our petals, and I'm using my pink yarn. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip knot, and I'm going to go ahead and attach my yarn to any of my single crochets here. So I'm just going to bring up my hook into one of my single crochets and then pick up my loop and bring it through. Now chain 1. Into the same space right over here where we did our chain 1, we're going to work 1 single crochet, and I'm working my tail in so I can just cut it. So 1 single crochet, 1/2 double crochet, so pull through all 3 loops, 1 double crochet, which is 2 loops, and then 2 more loops, and then back again, 1/2 double crochet and 1 single crochet, like that. Then pull your petal aside, and there should be a stitch here. Don't forget about it. Go ahead and slip stitch into that stitch. Do one more slip stitch into the next stitch and one more slip stitch. Now chain one and repeat. We're going to do one single crochet, one half double crochet, one double crochet, one half double crochet, and one single crochet. Again, pull back your petal and you should slip stitch right into the next stitch. Do another slip stitch into the following stitch and one more slip stitch, and we're going to start our petal again. So we're going to do chain one, one single crochet, one half double crochet, one double crochet, one half double crochet, and single crochet, all worked in the same space. So continue working like this, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. You should have 8 petals total. So here I worked my 8 petals and I have 2 stitches left. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch and slip stitch into my next stitch, and I'm gonna work another slip stitch right over here, right in there. And let's chain one, and we're gonna cut our yarn. Pull your hook through, and here you have your flower ready. I'm also gonna go ahead and cut this tail. We don't need it, and we'll work on this tail at the end. So the next part is we're gonna make our leaves. So you're gonna need your green color. So to attach our green yarn, we're gonna find a slip stitch that we did between 2 of our petals. So it'll be right over here, and I'm gonna put my hook through. It's a little bit tight, so just give yourself some time. As you can see, it's tight. So go ahead and bring your loop, and we're gonna go ahead and attach it. So now that our yarn is ready and attached, we're gonna go ahead and chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're gonna jump to our next slip stitch that we did between our petals, and we're gonna go ahead and find our second loop like so, and we're gonna go ahead and slip stitch. Okay, so we're gonna chain 4 again, 2, 3, 4, and again you're gonna go between your petals right over here, and you're gonna go ahead and slip stitch. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and repeat all the way around, and I'll meet you to show you how we end. Here I worked my 4 chains, and I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch right into our first slip stitch that we did right over here, like so. Okay, so what we need to do next is bring out our petals. We're going to push them forward and bring this chain 4 to the back. Okay, so once you have all your petals pushed forward and your chain 4s are in the back, we're going to slip stitch into our first chain, into our first chain 4, and I'm going to be working my tail in, so I could just cut it at the end of this round. So go ahead and slip stitch into our chain 4 and chain 1, and into this space we're going to work our leaves. So it's 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the same space, like so. Now what I need you to do is chain 1 and go into the next chain 4 space and work a single crochet. Chain 1 and into the next chain 4 space work your second leaf or your second corner. So we're going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets into the same space. Chain 1 and work a single crochet into your next chain 4 stitch. Chain 1 and repeat, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. So here I am at the end of my round, and you should have 4 corners, and I know it looks a little bit tight, but once we work our next 2 rows or rounds, it should straighten out more. So I just did my single crochet, and what I'm going to do is chain 1, and I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch right into my first double crochet. And I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and cut my yarn like so. Okay, so for this round you're going to need your beige, and once again I'm going to go ahead and work my slip knot. Once that's ready, I'm going to go ahead and put my hook in any of these corners. So I'm just going to pull my hook through, pick up my loop, and bring it in. Tighten it, and chain 1. So I'm going to go ahead and work my tail in so I can just cut it. So once you have your chain 1, we're going to work 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets all into the same chain 2 space. So here we go. We have 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets all into the same space. 1, 2, 3. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work 3 double crochets into this space right here, into our chain 1 space. So I'm going to work my 3 double crochets. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And once again I'm going to go ahead and find my next chain 1 space, which is right here, and I'm going to try to work my tail in, my green tail in, as I do my 3 double crochets, so I can just cut it. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to work another corner. Into our chain 2 space, we're going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and work 3 more double crochets all into the same space. 1, 2, 3. So again, we're going to find our chain 1 space, and we're going to go ahead and work 3 double crochets all into the same space. And again, find your chain 1 space and work 3 double crochets. So into your chain 2 space, you're going to work a corner and continue working, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Alright, so here I am at the end of my round, and I'm just going to go ahead and slip stitch into my first double crochet right over here. And we're done with this round. What we need to do next is we're going to slip stitch to get to our chain 2 space right over here. So let's slip stitch, and slip stitch one more time, and we're going to be in our chain 2 space. So what we're going to do now is just repeat. We're going to chain 1, work 3 double crochets, so we're working our corner, 2 and 3, chain 2, and work 3 more double crochets all into the same space. And right over here, we're going to work right between this 3 double crochets. We're going to work 3 double crochet in here and 3 double crochet in here and 1 more 3 double crochets in here. So here we go. We're going to do 3 double crochets right into that space in between our 3 double crochets of the previous row. So here's 1. So same thing again, we're just going to repeat. So we're going to go ahead and work 3 double crochets into that space. 2 and 3, and jump over to our next space and work 3 double crochets. 1, 2 and 3, and now we're going to repeat our corner. So it's 3 double crochets, 1, 2 and 3, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, all worked in the same space. So here we have our 2 corners and 1, 2, 3 sets of 3 double crochets. So continue working and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Here I am at the last space. I'm gonna go ahead and work my 3 double crochets. 2 and 3, and I'm just gonna slip stitch into my first double crochet, and we are done. We can cut our yarn. So here's your first granny square ready. You're gonna need 2, so go ahead and work on your second one. But don't cut your yarn because we're going to use that to continue working our single crochet to attach them together. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to quickly work on your ends. Some of them we can just cut, like this one we worked our green one, and this beige we can cut because we worked it into our work. But there's few that we're going to work on, like this pink one and this yellow one. So go ahead, get your needle out, and quickly I'll show you how to sew mine. So I'm just going to find a stitch and go ahead and tighten it, and find a different stitch and one more. And we're done. You can cut your tail. And same thing for this one. Try to stick with the same color. So I'm just sewing it back and forth. And that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that. So same thing with this beige. I'm gonna attach it to my needle, bring it to the back, and just find any stitches and just sew it back and forth, and you're ready to go. So that's it. So go ahead and work on the second granny square, and I'll meet you when we have 2 total. So here I worked my 2 granny squares, and I'm about to finish my second one, and I just wanted to show you what I do. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slip stitch to my first double crochet of this round, and what we need to do is slip stitch, do another slip stitch into the next stitch, and one more slip stitch to get us to the chain 2 space, and we'll continue working. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put single crochets to attach our granny squares together. So facing us, the flowers facing us, we're going to go ahead and place both of them. And what we need to do here is we need to make sure our stitches are aligning together. So into our chain 2 space, we're going to go ahead and work 3 single crochets. So I'm going to put my hook through the first granny square and the second one. And I'm going to pull up my yarn and do a single crochet. So one more time, working through both, 2 and 3. Once you have your 3 single crochet work, what we're going to do is we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way down until our chain 2 space here. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and find our first stitch and then the second one. And the most important part here is we need to make sure they're aligned, and we're going to work a single crochet. So again, I'm checking each stitch to make sure I'm aligning my granny squares. So here we go. So that's my first 3. And you don't need to put anything in this space right here, but you're going to continue putting 1 single crochet into each stitch. So here's another single crochet and another. So continue working, putting 1 single crochet into each stitch, and I'll meet you when we get to our chain 2 space right over here. So here I am finishing up. It's my last single crochet before I get to my chain 2 space. And into the chain 2 space, we're just going to do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to continue working 1 single crochet into each of our double crochets of both granny squares. And let me show you. And this is how we are attaching them. So this is our inside and this is our outside. And like that, we're going to continue working single crochets here up until the corner right over here. We're going to put 3 single crochets and go ahead and attach them and put 3 single crochets right over here, and I'll meet you at the end of this round. Here I am finishing up with my single crochets, and I need to add 3 single crochets right into here. So here's 1, 2, and 3. So the last thing we need to do, well actually we need to do 2 things, is we're just going to work double crochet clusters all along this edge right here, the opening. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into the space right over here. This is our single crochets. We're going to go into this space right here, and we're going to slip stitch, chain 1, and work 3 double crochets all into that same space. 1, 2, my yarn is stuck, and 3. And then we're going to work 3 double crochets right over here into this space. Just like we did in the previous row, it's just we're doing it on just one side of both of the granny squares. So once you work your 3 double crochets right over here, we're going to repeat and do 3 double crochets into each of the space right over here until we get to our other side that we did our single crochets, and I'll meet you right over here. I'm going to put 3 double crochets right over here into this space. So 2 and 3. And on this side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of our double crochets. So we're going to jump over to our next granny square, or the second granny square I should say. And we're going to go ahead and work our 3 double crochets right over here. So we're just repeating what we did to our first granny square. We're going to repeat to our second granny square. So I'm working 3 double crochets, and then I'm gonna go ahead and work 3 double crochets into each space until I reach here. So I'll meet you once I'm over here. I'm gonna go ahead and do my 3 double crochets into that space. Here's 2 and 3. I'm gonna go ahead and slip stitch right into my first double crochet right over here, and we are done. So let's go ahead and cut our yarn, and we can work on this tail later. So what we need to do next is work on our ties, and all I did is I chained 60. So go ahead, you can use different color if you want, but I chose to use my beige, my main color. So I'm gonna go ahead and chain up 60, and I'll meet you back once you have your chain of 60 done. So here I have my 60 chain all ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my yarn and pull out my hook. We are done. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to decide where we want to add our tie. I did it right underneath our double crochets, the last row of double crochets, and I tied it to the side. You can do it in the middle if you want, but I kind of like the flower to show more, and I did my ties at the sides. So I'm going to show you the side method, but you can change it up and do it any way you want to. So I'm just gonna go ahead and come into this space right over here where we did our single crochets, and I'm just gonna go ahead and take my chain and pull it through like so, and then come back to my space right over here. So this is my 3 double crochets, and I'm bringing it back up, and once again I'm going back in. It's just like doing a running stitch, but we're using our chain that we did. So I'm just continuing. You can use your hook here too if it's easier, but I kind of like to use my hands. I feel like that's easier for me, but you get to choose. Okay, so here I have my chain all ready to go. So I can tighten it now and it'll work. And the last thing that we need to do is add our beads. So if you have your beads ready, you can go ahead and follow along. And for this, you're gonna need your needle, and you can use any kind of beads you want, but I recommend the holes to be big enough for your needle to go through, and for the yarn to be able to go through your needle as well. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put my yarn through my needle and pick up one of my beads and just put my bead right into my chain. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a knot as close as I can to my end, and the way I like to do is just wrap it around my finger, and I have a loop, and I'm just gonna go ahead and bring my tail through and knot it like so. You can double knot it if you want, but I'm okay with one. And go ahead and cut your tail. You can even put a dab of glue if you want. It's your choice. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to my other tail. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add my second bead. Go ahead and make a knot as close as I can to my chain. And once that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my tail like so. Bring down my bead, and you're ready to go. And let's tie it. And here's your little bag. Here's our finished bag. It came out super cute. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.